Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm very happy to have you here, guys. For today's video, I've prepared 12 Bismol fragrances for you for the upcoming autumn-winter season. So if you like Bismol fragrances, if you like fragrances that are bold, that are creative, that are loud, that are not afraid to stand out, you are in the right place. So let's jump into the video. I'll start with the fragrances that are a bit more sweet, then I will move on to the fragrances that are a bit more, let's just say, creative but still wearable. Then I will leave at the end the fragrances that I think are the most, let's just say, quote-unquote challenging. But as a disclaimer before I start the video, these are not fragrances that you go out and you blind buy because you saw them mentioned in my video or another video as a reference. These, I'd say, perhaps with some exceptions, I look here because here I have all the fragrances, with some exceptions in mind, but the majority of these fragrances are fragrances that you need to test, are fragrances that you need to test on your skin. You need to spend a little bit more time wearing them to see if it's something that you would enjoy in the long run or not, because like I've mentioned, these are not your playful, innocent, I don't know, like all year round, all occasions kind of fragrances. But let's just start. Like I've mentioned, if you know me, you know I love my sweet fragrances, so let's start with something a bit more sweet. And I have here Teriyaki by Lattafa. I think I can safely say that Teriyaki is one of my favorite fragrances from Lattafa, along with Eclair and a few others that used to be my signature perfumes back in the day. But Teriyaki by Lattafa, the OG. Personally, my favorite one is the OG. Say whatever you want about this fragrance, but one thing you cannot comment about is the performance. You guys, this fragrance lasts, and especially considering this fragrance is more of a caramelized fruity accord, pretty much. So it's a gourmand leaning perfume. This lasts and lasts and lasts and projects and leaves a scent bubble wherever you go. Yeah, caramelized fruit, you guys, even more so baked caramelized fruits to me. Pear, apricot, covered in caramel, covered in honey. A gentle, creamy almondy facet in the background and a beautiful suede accord. This is sweet and feminine and inviting, but also a little bit bossy in a way, but it's that sweet kind of bossy, you know? Yeah, the kind of fragrance that envelops you, the kind of fragrance that could only work if you love very sweet fragrances and if you're not afraid to rock a bit of a suede accord. Now, this fragrance ages like fine wine. If you buy it now, do a few sprays, give it a bit of time for the notes to fully mix with one another and to fully melt into each other, because this is the effect you get after you give this fragrance, let's just say, a few months. Genuinely, the notes feel like they melt into one another and it creates such a beautiful and layered and smooth olfactory experience. So yeah, beautiful fragrance. Longevity is above average. Projection, I'd say a good medium projection. Sillage is pretty loud. So yeah, this is the first one. Moving on to something that's sweet, but it's more of a grown-up kind of sweet. And I'm talking about Lactea Divina from Paris Corner. Now this, I think I've discovered it this year and it was such a beautiful surprise, you guys. To me, this is the most sophisticated and elevated lactonic accord I've personally tried. Let's just say that in a world of lactonic accords that all go very sweet, very gourmand, quite juvenile for some, if you are a woman who loves your fragrances to exude this air of sophistication about them, but you still want something lactonic, Lactea Divina. Genuinely, upon the first spray, you are, I wanted to say hit, but you're hit in a pleasant way. You are welcomed, let's just say. You are welcomed by that beautiful, deep, nutty, sugary tonka bean with a buttery, thick lactonic accord and beautiful creamy florals, tuberose, jasmine. So again, this is a fragrance that's intense. This is a fragrance that's is not challenging in the same way that Teriyaki is, but it's challenging in its own way, meaning that the lactonic accord feels extremely realistic. Like I've mentioned, it almost feels like it has this buttery undertone about it. So when you think milk with butter, and when you think it's not very sweet, pretty much, automatically, it kind of sets this fragrance more into of an acquired taste territory. But this as a base, this alone, don't get me wrong, this alone, but also this as a base layer with other fragrances, you can make this scent profile go into so many different directions. This with a cherry accord, this with something spicy and cinnamony to amplify that cinnamon touch you already have here. This with jasmine whisk by Rasasi, it's a match made in heaven. Like, yeah, beautiful fragrance. Again, performance is above average longevity. Projection is definitely above average. Also, sillage is very good. So yeah, only good words to tell you about Lactea Divina. I think those are the two sweet fragrances from today's video and the two that lean the most feminine. Now the other ones, even though some do lean more feminine, they're either a bit more challenging or they are unisex, let's just say. Let's continue with a fragrance that's still sweet, but it's a different kind of sweet. It's a boozy sweet fragrance. I have here a fragrance that got my heart. I've recently discovered this fragrance. This is called Bacchus Paradiso by Hekayat Attar, and this is an inspiration of Angel Share Paradis. And this fragrance, I don't know if it shows you guys, but I've been wearing this fragrance so much lately. I'm telling you, whenever I'm on the go, whenever I have to put something on quickly and run out of the house, this is the fragrance that I gravitate towards 95% of times, let's just say these days. I cannot get enough of this scent profile. I also have a dedicated review if you want to hear my in-depth thoughts on this fragrance, but mainly this is a beautiful boozy fragrance. Think of this alcohol in a glass with ice cubes. That's the kind of boozy accord I'm talking about. Paired with a beautiful tart sweet raspberry facet in the opening. So yes, you will pick up that Angel Share DNA, but it's not just Angel Share. It has its own twist that makes it stand out so much more. I cannot get enough of this fragrance. Currently, I think it works amazing during the autumn season, during the winter season. It lasts, it projects, it smells amazing. It's a very modern fragrance. It's elegant, but how to describe it? The kind of elegance the fragrance exudes, it's a very... in a way, it's a very hipstery kind of elegance. You know, it's not that classic, old school type of elegance. It's a modern elegance. Like if you were to think fashion, like think, I don't know, you put any kind of thing on and then you put your oversized black coat on, you do a slick back bun or you let your hair out and loose, but minimal makeup. That's the kind of elegance the fragrance exudes. So in a way, very put together and chic, not necessarily very dressy. Now moving on, I have two fragrances that feature the beautiful note of rose in fragrances. One of, if not my favorite note in perfumes, but they give very different energy. So I have here, first things first, Shagaf Oud from Swiss Arabian. Now this is your typical Middle Eastern leaning perfume. Let me just take a moment to spray this fragrance. Yeah. What shines the most to my nose, first things first, is the saffron in the opening. It adds a beautiful spicy dimension, but in a way it acts as a facet to the rose accord. To me, the rose accord is the spotlight. To my nose, it's a red rose, like a luscious, voluptuous red rose, paired with a beautiful creamy praline accord, the hint of vanilla in the background. This oud accord, but think of it more like your rich, woody style of accord, meaning it doesn't have any funk. If you are familiar with oud fragrances, you know some can smell quite animalic. This doesn't smell animalic, so from this perspective, this is quite a beginner-friendly oud scent. Also, it leaves a lot of room to play with this fragrance in a lot of different layering combos. If you are into layering, you could layer it with something made around the chocolate accord, think chocolate greedy to amplify that praline undertone. You could layer it with, I don't know, like a burnt sugary vanilla to give it more of this burnt sugary facet and to amplify the vanilla. You could layer this one with something lactonic. Why not, to amplify the overall gourmand dimension of the fragrance and to tone down, let's just say, that woody style of accord. You could layer this one with something made around rose, something made around spices. A lot of different things could work so well layered with this fragrance. So yeah, it's interesting because this used to be one of my signature perfumes. And when I smell it now, I am reminded of all sorts of occasions and events in my life where I wore this fragrance, either as a standalone fragrance, either layered with Shagaf Oud as well, but that's the power of fragrance. Genuinely, I smell it. 2021 comes in my mind. It's almost like you click into a folder, you know, and you see there all kind of pictures and videos. This is how my mind works when I smell this fragrance. Yeah, beautiful fragrance, beautiful fragrance. Again, I'd say safe to a certain extent if you have a taste for Middle Eastern fragrances, you have a taste for more traditional blends. Not safe if you don't, pretty much. So that was the fragrance. Let me highlight something. Now, if you are a lover of eclair, I feel like when it comes to the world of Angel Share, pretty much, or the inspirations, you have inspirations that lean much more closer to Angel Share and that feature that almost this icy cooling boozy accord, this molecular translucency to them in a way. And then you have other fragrances that are more of a twist on the DNA and that they feel fully opaque. That was a tongue twister for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm not gonna repeat that. Some days it is what it is, you know. Now I want to highlight Royal Blend Nero. You know, my favorite inspiration is Royal Blend. simple one, OG, hands down, my favorite one. I would choose this. I would choose that fragrance over this. But the thing is, this fragrance being more opaque and being more resinous sticks even better to skin, to clothes, to hair. So the strength of the fragrance is even more strong. The strength of the fragrance is even more amplified, let's say, you know what I mean? Now, this fragrance, I would recommend it to everyone out there who's a lover of the OG Khamra by Lattafa. If you love what Lattafa did with this DNA, hands down you love what French Avenue did with this DNA even more, because they've upgraded it. To me, this smells a bit more high quality, if you ask me. Has this underlying creaminess about it right off the bat. Again, to me, it smells like McDonald's apple juice, you guys. When I smell this fragrance, it doesn't smell like the typical apple pie, or the apple pie that I'm familiar with, at least, that, I don't know, like my aunts used to make. I make every once in a blue moon, let's say. But no, this doesn't give me that kind of apple pie. This generally gives me that McDonald's apple juice from early 2000s. Think that with cinnamon sticks inside. But here is not as emphasized, that facet, as it is in Khamra. And you have here a beautiful, almost like this spicy touch from the cardamom, lots of beautiful spicy cinnamon. And I think what sets this fragrance apart is the quality of the resinous accord. So the resinous accord here feels buttery smooth. It adds a lot of weight to the fragrance, but this specific ambery resinous weight to the blend, you know? So this has depth, this has richness, this has warmth. Also, I pick up something green, think patchouli, beautiful fragrance, bit more complex than Khamra. If you love Khamra, if let's just say that fragrance is one of your signature perfumes, I would highly encourage you to at least test this fragrance, because the performance is on point when it comes to this fragrance. And again, even though it's not my favorite one in this line, my heart goes to Royal Blend OG, but I cannot deny that this screams luxury, high quality. When I smell this fragrance, nothing sharp, nothing alcoholic, nothing cheap, nothing flat, layered, multifaceted composition. Now, speaking of roses, I forgot to highlight the other rose fragrance I wanted to highlight. This is also from Swiss Arabian, and this is called Arij Al Sheila. And this, I only do 2 sprays because this is a very loud fragrance. This is for a specific kind of woman to me. So this carries an air of elegance. And this is the opposite of that innocent, youthful, baby pink kind of rose, or that garden style of rose. This is the opposite of that. You know, a lot of rose fragrances, especially in the designer world, they kind of give off this air of purity, of innocence, of rose lemonade, rose with something citrusy and musky, a very cleaned around the edges, polished, rosy, musky fragrance. Pretty much they all smell clean and pure and angelic and feminine, but very dainty and soft and almost like a damsel in distress in a way, you know, like it's that kind of softness that you want to take care of or everything like that. Well, to me, what Swiss Arabian created with this rose, it's the opposite of that. This is a rose accord that exudes power. This is a rose accord that has this fiery side about it. This is the rose accord that's intense, that's in your face. You either love it or you hate it, but it's there and it shines. And it's not afraid to be bold and powerful, let's just say. So the opening, this has a very beautiful development, by the way, but be careful, because the way it smells in the opening is not the way it smells in the heart, and the way it smells in the heart is not the way it smells in the dry down. This is why I say that this has quite a complex development, but this opens up, I'd say, with a spicy rose accord, something like durian green. I don't know why currently, like rose with something peppery, this violet leaf / patchouli combo that adds some greenness, this dewy greenness to the rose accord. So the rose, think your intense red rose, but it's not jammy and sweet at this current moment on. I'd say it has something from the stem of the rose as well, you know, paired with something peppery, paired with a leather accord. Now I'd say the leather, think leathery, woody, that type. So it has almost this natural funk about it, but it's not funky in a barnyard way. It's not funky in an animalic way. Don't think Hindi oud by any means, you know. Don't think your dusty, old, funky leather jacket. No, it's polished, but it's not too cleaned around the edges, to the point where it loses that kick, it loses that spark that makes it feel so realistic and bold and daring. You have it here, and this is what sets this fragrance apart to me. This intense, you know, I don't know why, but in a way, I imagine the woman who would rock this fragrance, she has this intense gaze about her, like she looks at you, but in a way she sees within you, she sees in your soul in a way. This is how intense this fragrance feels to me, and also elegant. Indeed, it does go into a gemmy direction, especially the rose accord I'm talking about. It does go to a warm, sweet, gemmy rose. Think pink rose absolute or something of that sort with a little bit of vanilla. In the dry down, the rose does remind me a little bit of the rose accord you have in L'Extase Rose Absolute from Nina Ricci, but it's still much more decadent. So it starts off very dark and bold and mysterious and daring and intense, and it moves on into something a bit more sensual, but without losing that mysterious edge, that intensity that it had in the opening. Beautiful creation for someone with an acquired taste. But test it first, because again, it's not one of the most wearable rose fragrances, but it's neither one of the most challenging rose fragrances I've tried. Now, what is autumn winter season without a smoky fragrance in your collection? I know a lot of you love to wear something among the lines of By the Fireplace during the autumn winter season, and I have an inspiration of it. Now, if for instance you found Amiral Oud Intense Oud by Lattafa to be a bit too sharp for your liking, then I would actually recommend you to test Hypnotic Oud from Arabia Prestige, because this not only is very similar to By the Fireplace, but also lasts much longer. Yeah, warm, smoky wood, the kind of smoky woods you'd have from a campfire, with a beautiful, almost like this burnt sweetness in the background, like burnt caramel, burnt vanilla, this burnt, something burnt and sweet in the background. This gentle piney coniferous touch lingering in the background. In a way, it almost feels like an echo, but it adds again, or not it adds, it contributes to the realistic dimension of the perfume. Yeah, this is to me Hypnotic Oud. Nothing, don't think oud, this doesn't have anything oudy about it. No, this is warm, this is smoky, generally feels like you're in a cabin in the woods, you're making a campfire out, you're staying a bit too close to the fire, so now your hair smells like a little bit of smoke, you know, you're burning some marshmallows in the fire or something like burnt caramel, that's the vibe. And behind you or close to you, you have beautiful like pine trees that exude this gentle coniferous touch. Generally, to me, this is autumn in a bottle. Like, if going to a cabin in the woods during the autumn season would have a scent, to me, it would be Hypnotic Oud from Arabia Prestige. Again, not one of my most warm fragrances. I feel like I prefer a bit of different kind of smoky aromas, but I can't deny how well done this fragrance is, the quality that it has, the performance that it has. And also, if you love, like I've mentioned, Amiral Oud, but you find it a bit too challenging, then I think this one would be a beautiful alternative for decent profile without breaking the bank, and also much more long lasting than By the Fireplace. Now, I think we are slowly but surely moving into the more creative / challenging perfumes, and let's continue with something still sweet, but it has this edginess about it. Now, this is a fragrance right off the bat. I don't think everyone will love it, but you need to be looking for something very specific to enjoy this fragrance. But let me just describe it to you. So this is the Rose from El Absar, and this fragrance, to me, you guys, this in a way revamps the whole idea of fruity patchoulis from late 90s, early 2000s, but in a way that feels contemporary, but very naughty and provocative at the same time. So right off the bat, you have this fruity patchouli facet. The patchouli, think the patchouli have in Jimmy Choo by Jimmy Choo, so it's minty, herbal, green, aromatic. That's the patchouli. Nothing earthy, nothing damn soil-like, nothing funky. It's paired with this beautiful sweet tart raspberry facet in the opening, and this freaking delicious and naughty and provocative cotton candy-ish undertone in the background that adds such a different twist to this composition. And you have all these accords that sit on a leather base. Now, the leather accord does feel a bit funky, does have this funkiness about it, and I think the leather accord, the way the leather accord is done, like I've mentioned in the review I've posted for this fragrance, it reminds me of the times when I was younger and I used to go clubbing, and you'd wear this fruity patchouli perfume that's sweet, like very sweet. It has something very caramelly about it, this one as well. But people around you would smoke cigarettes, you know, because back in the day you could smoke cigarettes in clubs, in restaurants, everywhere pretty much, here in Romania. And it gives me a very similar experience. Like, you'd go clubbing and you'd be wearing your very nice, reserved only for special occasions, let's just say pretty patchouli that's very sweet, but with that patchouli facet, and people around you would smoke near you and the smoke would get in your hair, on your clothes. And now this scent pretty much smells like these two worlds combined in a way. So something like a cigarette smoke combined with this naughty, provocative, very, very daring fruity patchouli. Like I've mentioned, to me this gives me the vibe of wearing something among the lines of Mula Mula, or perhaps even Mula Mula Rouge Extreme, because that has a much more amplified patchouli facet, and you'd smoke a cigarette. And the scent of those two combined is how this fragrance smells like to me. So I know the smell of cigarette smoke is not something for everyone. Personally, I love the smell of cigarette smoke in perfumes. I don't really love it in real life, but in perfumes, you guys, or maybe I love it so much because it reminds me of those times when I used to go clubbing, I don't know. Definitely not something that everyone would appreciate, but performance is amazing, the price is amazing, the scent is very unique. You don't come across something like this every day. And yeah, I really like the direction they took this DNA. So that was another perfume. Now, I have to mention this fragrance. I'm not gonna spend too much time talking about it because I've highlighted it a lot, especially when I was discussing different tobacco perfumes. But if you are on the hunt for a tobacco perfume that's affordable, that's very complex and layered, unique smelling also, it's not something you've smelled everywhere, then I would highly, 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 highly encourage you to look into Garam by Junaid Perfumes. Garam by Junaid Perfumes is a masterpiece, genuinely is a masterpiece. If you're a lover of tobacco, you will love the way the tobacco accord is done here. I love tobacco in perfumes. It's paired with dark chocolate, but dark chocolate that has this orange flavor to it. It's paired with lots of cinnamon. It's paired with this deep, sticky, plummy facet, a beautiful golden honey accord in the background that feels quite syrupy. The tobacco, think your warm, dry pipe tobacco. That's the kind of tobacco. It doesn't have smokiness per se. It's not elite, this is what I'm trying to say. But it's like you're smelling a box of high quality cigars or like raw tobacco, you know, that you put to smoking pipes. This fragrance, this fragrance, this fragrance, this fragrance, this is outstanding. The quality, the accords, how they blend into one another. This genuinely, like if you close your eyes, it's almost like a movie is going on in your mind, or at least in my mind when I'm smelling this fragrance. It's so vivid and photorealistic. Well done to Junaid Perfumes. What can I say? Well done. Performance doesn't disappoint. So if you wanted something among these lines, very complex, has sweetness but also lots of depth. I'd say it's more challenging than Amber Oud Tobacco from Al Haramain. So it's more challenging than Tobacco Vanille from Tom Ford, but it's less challenging than Red Tobacco from Ansera. So yeah, this is Garam by Junaid Perfumes in a nutshell, a masterpiece, a true masterpiece. If you're a lover of tobacco with spices, with sticky, fruity facets, with everything combined. Now it doesn't give me straight up feminine vibes, of course, but it neither gives me typical masculine vibes. Now a tobacco accord that I've tried, or a tobacco perfume that I've tried that gives me straight up masculine vibes, it was from Theodoros Kalottinis. That one perfume they have made around tobacco. Yeah, that one was too masculine for my taste. This I can pull it off easily, and this smells like something niche, you guys. This smells like something you'd find, I don't know, in my mind, like up above the €200 mark, because of how photorealistic and layered and multifaceted it feels. Now we don't have a lot of fragrances left. I think we have 3 fragrances left. Moving on to the next fragrance, I have here 2 fragrances that feature jasmine. Jasmine can definitely work very well in autumn-winter season. For some reason, the kind of jasmine fragrances that work well in autumn-winter season, they kind of give me witchy vibes, and I'm not mad about that because I love this raw, primal, witchy facet in a perfume. You know, I think it's very edgy and different and unique, and yeah, it stands out. Let's just say it stands out. Now, I will highlight this one. First things first, Orchid Prairie from Rasasi, from the Leo Karam collection. Now this is a fragrance that you don't see it mentioned a lot. This genuinely smells like you take the old formulation of Alien on holiday to the Middle East. Genuinely, this smells like Alien was going to the Middle East. So you still have, let me just spray it for the sake of spraying it. So you still have that beautiful, intense, bewitching jasmine accord, but you have a very nicely done funky oud accord, and by funky I mean funky. This is not your beginner oud fragrance like you have here in Shagaf Oud from Swiss Arabian. The oud accord you have in Orchid Prairie, to me it's an oud for someone who appreciates the aroma of oud, for someone who's an oud connoisseur, for someone who's open to exploring the world of oud. This is not your cleaned around the edges, polished oud accord that's so clean that now it smells like what, like 3%, let's just say, of the whole olfactory experience that a well-done oud note or oud accord would give you in a perfume. No, this carries that funkiness, but the funk, this generally, if you know that a line of flankers to Alien that was released to the Middle Eastern market first, so Alien Masque Mystérieux and Alien Oud Majestueux, this could be a flanker of that line easily. But it carries that purple smelling jasmine Alien combo, you know, with the cashmere and everything. You do have this dry woody facet, but it's blended so well with the funkiness of the woody accord with that beautiful bewitching jasmine. Yeah, this is your signature worthy kind of perfume, but only if you are into these kind of fragrances. So let's just say something a bit more, not really obscure, what word am I looking for? Something a bit lesser known, let's just say something a bit more niche-like. Yeah, look into this fragrance, because it's something else. It's not the most easy to pull off fragrance. It's a fragrance that requires a certain type of woman and attitude and energy. Whenever I was wearing this fragrance, I received good feedback as well as bad feedback. I don't know if I received the bad feedback because I did a mistake once of overspraying it. I don't know if I received bad feedback because the person was only able to smell the oud accord and they thought I smelled all funky and everything. But yeah, love or hate kind of perfume. But if, like I've mentioned, OG Alien is your vibe, Alien Oud Majestueux is your vibe, Alien Masque Mystérieux is your vibe, then Orchid Prairie from Rasasi will definitely be your vibe as well. Now, speaking of Alien taken to the Middle East, I want to highlight another fragrance that kinda could be another flanker to that line. And this is Opulent Red by Lattafa, one of the fragrances I've received the most polarizing feedback on. So, what I mean by this, let me spray it. When it comes to this fragrance, there was no in-between. People either came in my comments and they were very angry and they were telling me that this smells like gasoline, or this smells like shit, or this smells like the cheapest, funkiest fragrance that you're not even supposed to, like this scent is not even supposed to be in a perfume, that kind of feedback. Or I have people who are telling me this is their signature fragrance. I have people telling me this is one of their favorite discoveries. I had people telling me in the comments that they absolutely adore this fragrance. Yeah, it's interesting because now, so let me tell you how it smells like. So to me, this features the same bewitching, dark, enchanting, witchy style of jasmine you have in Alien on a bed of sage, you guys. Sage again gives me witchy vibes, and it's interesting because years ago when this fragrance was released, this is an inspiration of Vert Malakit, or I think from Giorgio Armani. Years ago when this fragrance was released, sage was not even as popular, as trending, you know, and people were smelling that odd accord that smelled witchy and green and herbal and different and weird and unpleasant. But I feel like after and so for that era, to me, sage in perfumes was very non-conformist. I don't know how to say that in English. So for a lack of a better word, let's just say it was very unusual and weird to a certain extent to have this type of green accord in fragrances. But I feel like now, once that Matière Première has released their vanilla powder, now all of a sudden sage / Palo Santo, that features the Palo Santo accord, but to my nose, sage accords and Palo Santo accords are related 1000%. Sage to me feels a bit more, there I see a bit more herbal and green, slightly bitter, but that sage-like kind of bitterness, very aromatic again and grounding and witchy. Whereas Palo Santo kind of gives me a very similar olfactory profile, but had something a bit woody about it, you know? So now all of a sudden this fragrance doesn't seem like that odd fragrance out. In a way, kind of seems like something was ahead of its time. It's creamy. Now after all this time, I have to say it went much more creamy, much more round around the edges. Again, take Alien to the Middle East, add a beautiful, well done, aromatic, herbal sage accord, and I'd say this is Opulent Red by Lattafa. Love or hate indeed, but if you love it and you rock with it, this has the potential to be, again, one of your signature perfumes this autumn-winter season. But do not blind buy this fragrance. Please don't blind buy it. And again, if you buy it, give it some time, because I'm telling you the feedback I received, okay? I am just letting you know. Yeah, not to say that you need to listen to that kind of feedback, because truthfully, I don't listen. Like when I'm interested in a fragrance, I make my own. Of course, I take into consideration what I read either on Fragrantica or what I hear about a fragrance, what the sales rep tells me when I go to a specific store or anything, but I always make my own conclusions when it comes to a perfume or to anything in life, as a matter of fact. And I would recommend you to do the same. Take everything you hear, but always make your own conclusions when it comes to a fragrance, because you are the person who's gonna wear it. So it's important that you like it, that you love it. Yeah. So moving on to the last fragrance for today's video. Now this is the last because this is one of the most challenging fragrances I have, but I cannot deny how beast mode this fragrance is. If you're looking, like, let's just say, I don't know, you are looking for slowly for performance. You want something that's loud, you want something that's unique, you want something that shines and that's kind of overpowering but very bold and courageous at the same time, then Marj will be the fragrance I would recommend you to try. Marj from Ahmed al-Maghribi, unisex, but I think as a woman you kind of need to have a certain taste to pull it off. For me it would work as a base, and it works best as a base rather than on its own. But this DNA on a man, I adore this DNA on a man. This fragrance has such an interesting quality. So when you smell it up close, you get a specific scent profile and certain notes shine. When you smell it from further away, you get a different scent profile and different notes shine. This fragrance is like a chameleon, genuinely. Yeah, so I'm telling you what I pick up as I'm smelling it. So pretty much something green and mentholated and spicy. Think freshly grounded cardamom with, I don't know, like patchouli, like crushed patchouli leaves in your hand. So it's herbal, it's aromatic, it's minty, it's refreshing. This funky, woody, leathery combo that feels like a tad animalic leaning, but not too animalic, but funky for sure. And then when I smell it, let's just say now I take it away from my nose. I give my nose a few seconds. I lean in and I smell it from here. I get that honey-like sweetness and this almost like, think of very sweet orange blossom water you use for cakes, for patisserie in general. That's what I get. So you have sweet accords, but then you have these decadent, bold, loud, daring accords that make it feel so statement and so attractive on a man, you guys. They really did it with this fragrance. Love or hate, again, love or hate kind of perfume, but outstanding creation if you ask me. I think on a man it smells extremely attractive, especially now during the autumn winter where you could easily wear something like this without suffocating anyone around you. Test it. If that sounds like your cup of tea, maybe watch, I have an older video where I review this fragrance. Maybe watch that video and see if it's something you would enjoy or not. So this marks the end of the video. Let me know what you think of this lineup. I think I've added something for every taste out there. Perhaps not every taste, but if you love bold fragrances, I'm sure you can find here something that works for you. Could have added more, but I think 12 is more than enough, especially when it comes to beast mode fragrances, considering you genuinely do not need a lot of sprays. Yeah. Like I've mentioned at the beginning, I want to highlight this facet. I wanted to highlight this aspect even more. Please do not blind buy any of these fragrances. Please take these as what they are, recommendations. If any of them, let's just say maybe you were listening to this video and any of them truly stood out, like you were hearing me talk about it and you were like, I can kind of see myself wearing something like this, or I was kind of looking to add something like this to my collection. Do your own research and start with a sample, start with a decant. And if you love it, why not get the full bottle, love it, wear it, enjoy it, rock it, you know. But because these are more challenging fragrances, not all, but the majority, I don't want you to go out and blindly buy something that might not even be your cup of tea. So tell me what are the loudest, strongest fragrances in your collection. Put them in the comment section, because maybe when people are watching this review, they could take your recommendations into account as well. Let me know, do you enjoy beast mode fragrances, or do you prefer fragrances that have, let's just say, an average or slightly above average of a performance? I definitely love my beast mode fragrances, but I've also, throughout the years, I've started to appreciate much more fragrances that perhaps don't don't shock me in the performance department, but they really make me feel good. Like scent wise, I really click with them, I connect with them. Performance is not the only factor I'm looking when I'm wearing a fragrance, buying a fragrance, interested in buying a fragrance, but it's one of the factors I take into account also. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. If you want to tell me anything, put it in the comment section and I promise I will get back to you. I will see you in my next video, but until then I want to wish you an amazing day wherever you are. Bye guys.